In 1938, a desperate mother with zero money cured her son's severe chest cold using just honey, lemon, and black pepper. That exact three-ingredient syrup is number 30 on our list and costs mere pennies to make. These 30 forgotten remedies were designed for survival by resilient people stretching tiny paychecks across long, brutal winters. When you live entirely alone and your body aches, the thought of navigating a massive modern pharmacy feels overwhelming. Our grandmothers fed and healed their families using simple, overlapping ingredients already sitting in their humble kitchen cabinets. Hit that subscribe button right now to support our channel. Let us count down the 30 forgotten poor man three-ingredient remedies our grandmothers swore by. Number 30 is the legendary throat syrup made from raw honey, fresh lemon juice, and black pepper. When a harsh winter cough threatened to keep a senior awake all night, they did not buy expensive chemical syrups. They simply mixed 2 spoonfuls of thick honey with the juice of half a lemon and a pinch of black pepper. The honey coated the raw throat while the lemon provided heavy vitamin C and the pepper stimulated warm, healing blood flow. It tasted intensely sweet and sharp, but it instantly quieted the chest and allowed a lonely person to finally sleep. This simple mixture sat on the nightstand of nearly every Depression-era home, saving people from endless, agonizing nights. It completely eliminated the brutal, hacking cough that tore weak, aging abdominal muscles apart. A jar of honey and a single lemon cost practically nothing, but delivered absolute nighttime peace. Number 29 is the ultimate infected gum rinse using baking soda, warm water, and table salt. Dental care is an absolute luxury that many aging people living on fixed incomes simply cannot afford. A painful, swollen gum could easily turn into a dangerous infection that ruined a person's whole week. Grandmothers knew that stirring half a teaspoon of salt and baking soda into warm water would pull the painful infection out. The hypertonic saline solution draws fluid out of bacterial cells, while the baking soda neutralizes the burning acid. A senior sitting alone could swish this cheap mixture and save their teeth without spending gas money to visit a clinic. The rapid reduction in gum swelling brought tears of pure, absolute relief to tired, suffering eyes. It required 0 prescriptions and used powders that already sat next to the kitchen flour. Number 28 is the morning joint elixir, utilizing apple cider vinegar, raw honey, and warm water. Arthritis severely limits mobility, making basic morning chores feel like climbing a massive, steep mountain. Wise seniors simply mixed 1 spoonful of unfiltered vinegar and 1 spoonful of honey into a mug of warm water. Drinking this sharp, earthy tonic every morning helped balance the internal pH levels and aggressively flushed out heavy joint inflammation. It required no complicated preparation and 0 expensive trips to a distant physical therapy office. This cheap morning ritual gave disabled widows the vital strength they needed to maintain their own independent homes. The stiff, swollen knuckles would slowly loosen, allowing them to finally hold a simple coffee cup without extreme pain. The raw vinegar costs $3 a bottle and lasts for many long, healthy months. Number 27 is the Deep Sleep Tonic, crafted from warm milk, sweet butter, and black pepper. Insomnia plagues the elderly mind, bringing dark, quiet hours of severe loneliness and deep physical exhaustion. Before the invention of addictive sleeping pills, grandmothers gently heated a cup of whole milk on the kitchen stove. They melted a small pat of rich butter into the milk and dusted the top with spicy black pepper. The heavy fat and natural tryptophan in the milk coated the stomach, while the pepper created a deeply comforting internal warmth. A senior drinking this rich liquid would feel their tense muscles completely relax, allowing them to drift into peaceful, restorative sleep. The anxiety of being entirely alone in the dark house simply melted away under the heavy butterfat. It was a rustic, liquid lullaby that required no doctor visit to legally obtain. Number 26 is the winter skin paste made of rolled oats, whole milk, and raw honey. Aging skin becomes terribly thin and loses moisture, resulting in painful, invisible rashes that burn and itch constantly. Expensive, medicated pharmacy lotions often sit on the surface and irritate the fragile skin even more. Mixing ground oatmeal with milk and honey creates a thick, sticky paste that acts as a natural healing bandage. Applying this cool mixture to dry, cracked arms forces heavy moisture and natural antibacterial properties deep into the wounded tissue. A widow with arthritis could easily mix this in a small bowl and find absolute relief from the endless, maddening itch. The oats leave a smooth, protective barrier that lasts long after the sweet paste is washed away. It restores a quiet dignity to someone who is terribly embarrassed by their violently red, flaking skin. Number 25 is the heavy lung syrup using raw garlic, raw honey, and white onion. The smell alone brings back intense memories of Depression-era kitchens where dangerous sickness was simply not allowed. A senior, feeling the heavy pressure of a deep winter cold, would finally chop onion and garlic into a jar of honey. Letting it sit overnight pulled the powerful medicinal sulfur out of the harsh vegetables and infused the sweet honey completely. Swallowing one thick spoonful of this pungent syrup acted as a natural antibiotic that aggressively thinned out heavy chest congestion. It tasted absolutely terrible, but it kept vulnerable, lonely seniors breathing freely through the harsh, bitter winter nights. The sticky syrup forcefully ripped the deadly fluid right out of the aging, weak lungs. Mothers made this remedy in large, heavy jars because it kept the entire family miraculously alive. Number 24 is the joint-soaking liquid, consisting of Epsom salt, warm water, and baking soda. After a lifetime of hard physical labor, the human body demands a massive and painful toll. A retired mechanic whose hands are curled stiff from 50 years of holding wrenches intimately knows this deep pain. Soaking those tired hands in a warm basin filled with dissolved Epsom salt and baking soda delivers pure magnesium. The warm magnesium forces tight, contracted muscles to finally let go, while the baking soda softens the tough, calloused skin. This tiny daily therapy session costs just pennies and happens quietly at the kitchen table without any outside help. The deep bone ache slowly drains directly into the cloudy, salty water, leaving the hands remarkably functional. It is an act of pure physical salvation bought in a cheap cardboard pharmacy box. Number 23 is the stomach-settling tea made from fresh ginger, dark brown sugar, and boiling water. Getting older often brings mysterious dizzy spells and an unpredictable stomach that suddenly rejects familiar comforting foods. Buying anti-nausea medicine meant navigating a massive store aisle filled with confusing labels and high prices. Slicing raw ginger into boiling water and adding a spoonful of rich brown sugar creates a deeply soothing, spicy tea. The ginger instantly blocks the nausea receptors in the brain, while the dark sugar provides a tiny burst of necessary energy. It asks nothing of you except to sip it slowly and wait for the terrible twisting cramps to completely fade away. A lonely senior does not have to worry about dangerous chemical side effects causing them to fall and break a hip. This ginger water brings the twisting, rolling stomach to a fast, absolute, dead halt. Number 22 is the respiratory plaster, utilizing mustard powder, wheat flour, and warm water. Before electric heating pads, grandmothers relied on the intense chemical heat generated by a simple mustard plaster. For a severe chest cold, they mixed dry mustard and flour with just enough water to make a thick yellow paste. Spreading this paste between two thin cotton cloths and laying it on the chest pulled the painful pressure completely away. The intense heat from the mustard seed stimulates massive blood circulation directly to the struggling lungs beneath the ribs. You had to watch the skin carefully to prevent blisters, but this powerful rustic remedy saved countless lives during harsh winters. The violent coughing fits would miraculously stop as the heavy heat deeply penetrated the frozen chest cavity. It was aggressive, brutal medicine that worked exactly when absolutely nothing else could. Number 21 is the gentle eardrops made of pure olive oil, fresh garlic, and a tiny cotton ball. A sudden screaming earache in the middle of a freezing winter night is a truly terrifying experience. Without 24-hour clinics, desperate mothers and lonely seniors had to rely on whatever was sitting in the pantry. Gently warming a spoonful of olive oil with a crushed garlic clove created a highly effective natural antibiotic liquid. Dropping this warm infused oil into the painful ear and plugging it with cotton brought almost immediate and profound relief. It smelled like a rustic Italian kitchen, but it aggressively fought the deep inner infection and allowed the sufferer to sleep. The warm oil gently softened the hardened wax, while the raw garlic juice killed the invading bacteria. It completely saved poor, vulnerable people from experiencing permanent, terrible hearing loss. First pattern break. Here is where things get intensely personal and painfully real for anyone watching this video. The 3 ingredient remedies on this list are not just old wives' tales or random silly folklore. They are vital survival strategies invented by desperate people who had absolutely no one else to lean on for support. A senior living entirely alone faces something that modern, bright medical commercials almost never talk about. They face the quiet, terrible fear of getting dangerously sick in an empty, silent house with no car keys. When your back hurts so bad you cannot stand washing 5 different pots to make an herbal extract is impossible. A simple 3-ingredient cure is the necessary bridge between suffering silently and taking your vital power back. You could afford these simple ingredients when you were exhausted and when the pension check was already completely gone. They met you exactly where you were in the darkest and most painful moments of the long, lonely month. The absolute most important ingredient in every single one of these historic cures is simple, easy accessibility. A remedy only works if a frail, tired person can actually manage to make it themselves. Number 20 is the drawing poultice made from raw potato, white onion, and green cabbage. Deep, painful skin boils and severe splinters were common hazards for people working hard manual labor jobs. Without proper surgical tools to extract an infection, they relied on vegetables that naturally aggressively draw out heavy toxins. Grating raw potato and onion, then wrapping it tightly against the wound with a crushed cabbage leaf, creates a powerful vacuum. The wet natural starches and sharp sulfur compounds physically pull the deep infection up directly to the surface of the skin. By the next morning, the terrible throbbing pain was gone and the wound was finally ready to drain and properly heal. The cabbage leaf acted as a perfectly cool organic bandage that easily wrapped around swollen, ruined joints. It was the ultimate poor man's surgery, performed safely right in the humble farm kitchen. Number 19 is the energy-boosting tonic using black tea leaves, raw honey, and fresh lemon juice. Chronic fatigue heavily blankets the elderly mind, making the simplest daily tasks feel like completely impossible chores. Before expensive chemical energy drinks existed, a senior would brew a strong, dark cup of simple black tea. Stirring in a spoonful of raw honey and a heavy squeeze of lemon completely transformed the bitter drink. The heavy tannins provided sharp, focused energy, while the raw honey offered sustained blood sugar, and the lemon aided deep digestion. This cheap midday ritual allowed an exhausted grandmother to find the strength to finally sweep the dusty floor. It warmed the permanently cold hands and forced the tired, groggy brain to snap back to bright attention. The entire beautiful lifting drink cost absolutely less than 5 total humble pennies. Number 18 is the soothing rash paste, combining cheap cornstarch, baking soda, and cool water. A solitary senior who struggles to walk often spends entirely too much time sitting in a single favorite chair. This constant lack of motion causes heavy friction and trapped moisture that quickly turns into agonizing, invisible skin wounds. Mixing simple cornstarch and baking soda with just enough water to form a smooth paste creates a perfect physical barrier. Dusting or spreading this cool white paste onto the fragile skin absorbs the dangerous moisture and stops the brutal friction. A single box of cornstarch has quietly saved millions of people from terrible, festering skin infections. The baking soda instantly neutralizes the burning acid on the skin, providing deep, immediate soothing relief. It gives an immobile person the total freedom to sit comfortably without silently wincing in agonizing pain. Number 17 is the cracked hand scrub, crafted from animal lard, white sugar, and fresh lemon juice. Harsh farming weather and constant hand washing with strong lye soap left hands bleeding, cracked, and incredibly painful. Modern, expensive hand creams did not exist in rural Depression-era homes where every single penny was carefully counted. Grandmothers mixed cheap, heavy lard with coarse white sugar and a tiny splash of lemon juice to scrub their ruined hands. The sugar exfoliated the dead, dry skin, while the lemon brightened the stains and the heavy lard provided a massive moisture barrier. Washing this simple scrub off left the tough working hands feeling surprisingly soft and deeply, deeply cared for. The cracks physically sealed up, allowing the lonely senior to finally wash their own dishes without crying in pain. It turned basic waste fat into a luxurious, high-end medical skin treatment. Number 16 is the anxiety-soothing drink containing warm milk, ground nutmeg, and raw honey. The heavy weight of living alone often brings terrible creeping anxiety right as the sun finally goes down. Racing, dark thoughts about unpaid bills and failing health can keep a lonely senior pacing the wooden floorboards. Gently warming milk with a generous pinch of fresh nutmeg and sweet honey creates a powerful, mild sedative drink. The trace chemical compounds in the nutmeg act deeply on the nervous system to actively suppress frantic, anxious thoughts. Sipping this sweet, fragrant milk while sitting in a quiet rocking chair brings profound psychological peace to a worried mind. It stops the rapid, terrifying heartbeat that plagues so many elderly people living in absolute, total isolation. The heavy milk sits warm in the belly, actively mimicking the feeling of being deeply and truly safe. Number 15 is the severe fever compress, using green cabbage, apple cider vinegar, and cool water. Buying modern aspirin in the 1930s was a massive luxury that many poor farming families simply could not afford. When a terrifying high fever spiked, they soaked a cabbage leaf in a bowl of cool water and strong vinegar. Laying this wet, heavy leaf directly across a burning forehead naturally drew the dangerous heat out of the fragile skull. The sharp vinegar actively opened the skin pores, while the thick cabbage leaf held the cooling temperature incredibly well. This remedy required absolutely 0 trips to a distant town pharmacy and reliably broke fevers by midnight. A sick, elderly person could easily lay this leaf over their own face and finally drift into healing sleep. The wilted, hot cabbage leaf was thrown out in the morning, taking the terrible fever entirely with it. Number 14 is the homemade hydration fluid, made strictly from table salt, white sugar, and boiled water. Summer heat waves are incredibly deadly for seniors because the aging brain simply stops sending the necessary signal to drink water. This leads to severe, dangerous dehydration that can quickly end in a terrifying, unexpected trip to the hospital. Grandmothers created their own emergency electrolyte drink by dissolving a pinch of salt and a spoonful of sugar into clean water. This exact ratio perfectly mimics the natural cellular fluids in the human body and forces rapid, deep internal hydration. It tastes slightly strange, but it can literally bring a fading, dizzy person completely back to vibrant life. You do not need to buy brightly colored, expensive sports drinks filled with massive amounts of artificial fake chemicals. The basic holy trinity of salt, sugar, and water saves the human heart from collapsing under the terrible summer heat. Number 13 is the digestive reset meal, combining smooth applesauce, ground cinnamon, and burnt toast. A violent stomach bug can leave a frail senior completely depleted and utterly terrified to eat anything solid. The famous brat diet started in ancient, humble kitchens, where easily digested starches were the only safe available medicine. Scraping the black char off burnt toast provided natural activated carbon, which actively absorbs heavy toxins in the ruined stomach. Adding a dash of cinnamon to mild applesauce stopped terrible diarrhea and gently restarted the stalled digestive tract. This bland, simple meal provided critical life-saving calories without causing any further painful internal distress. It allowed a completely exhausted, vomiting widow to finally keep food down and regain her basic physical strength. The cinnamon also naturally murdered the awful bacteria that originally heavily attacked the delicate, vulnerable stomach lining. Number 12 is the indigestion tea utilizing fresh mint leaves, boiling water, and raw honey. As the human stomach ages, it slowly stops producing the heavy, vital enzymes needed to digest regular daily meals. Seniors often sit in terrible, silent discomfort after eating a normal Sunday dinner, feeling bloated and heavily trapped. Steeping fresh green mint leaves in boiling water and adding a tiny drop of honey completely relaxes the smooth colon muscles. It forces trapped, painful gas to release and stops the tired stomach from violently, aggressively gripping itself. A small mint plant growing on a kitchen windowsill is a continuous, cheap pharmacy for anyone with a sensitive stomach. Sipping the bright, fragrant tea clears the nasal passages and gently massages the painful, tight abdominal walls. It turns a miserable, agonizing evening back into a quiet, pleasant, beautifully restful night. Number 11 is the deep exfoliating scrub made from used coffee grounds, olive oil, and raw honey. Nothing was ever wasted in a true Depression-era household, especially the highly valuable morning coffee grounds. A senior with rough, calloused skin from working in a harsh garden would save the wet grounds in a small bowl. Mixing them with a splash of cheap olive oil and a drop of honey created a highly luxurious deep skin treatment. The rough coffee grounds aggressively removed the dead cells while the olive oil pumped massive moisture back into the tight skin. It was a tiny, necessary moment of pure self-care that cost absolutely nothing extra to create. The natural caffeine in the grounds also actively stimulated blood flow to the tired, heavily aching joints beneath the skin. Poor people deserved basic physical dignity, and this wonderful dark scrub completely naturally provided it. Second pattern break. Here is the quiet, terrifying tragedy the massive modern medical industry desperately wants to ignore. These 3-ingredient remedies cost almost nothing because they rely on simple items that nobody can patent or legally own. There is absolutely no brand loyalty in a wet cabbage leaf or a plain yellow box of baking soda. There is no massive $1-million advertising budget behind a tiny bag of Epsom salt or a jar of raw honey. The corporate profit margin on a clove of fresh garlic is just a tiny microscopic fraction of a single penny. That is exactly why you never see emotional television commercials promoting warm salt water or mustard chest plasters. The simple solutions that quietly keep resilient seniors alive and out of massive debt are the solutions nobody can exploit. Instead, they relentlessly sell expensive synthetic chemical liquids that contain less actual nutrition than a simple bowl of warm broth. Our wise grandmothers intuitively understood that the earth already provided everything necessary to heal basic human physical ailments. They passed down this sacred, resilient knowledge not to get wealthy, but to ensure their vulnerable children simply survived. The modern world forgot these simple remedies, but the lonely, aching body absolutely heavily remembers them. Number 10 is the throat-clearing gargle, blending fresh lemon juice, table salt, and warm water. When a thick, scratchy, sore throat signals the scary beginning of a long, terrible winter cold, fast action is required. Modern, bright red throat sprays taste like harsh plastic and leave the mouth feeling completely numb and strangely dry.
Stirring sharp lemon juice and salt into a glass of warm water creates a violently hostile environment for invading bacteria. Swishing and gargling this sour, salty liquid physically tears the harmful mucus away from the raw red throat lining. A bag of lemons costs a few dollars and requires absolutely no complicated medical copay or long waiting room line. The heavy, concentrated salt literally sucks the life-giving water completely out of the throat, bacteria instantly killing them. A senior can do this 10 times a day without ever worrying about a dangerous chemical overdose. Number 9 is the foot fungus soak, consisting of baking soda, white vinegar, and warm water. Aging feet suffer terribly from thick fungal infections that hide deep under yellowed, cracked toenails, causing severe, continuous pain. Prescription fungal creams are outrageously expensive and often take many long, frustrating months to show any real visible progress. Filling a cheap plastic basin with warm water, baking soda, and a heavy pour of vinegar creates an active, bubbling foot bath. The intense chemical reaction actively destroys the thick, protective cell walls of the stubborn fungus hiding deep in the nail bed. A solitary senior can sit reading a book while this cheap, acidic mixture quietly cures their painful, embarrassing feet. Over just a few short weeks, the horrible yellow discoloration fades and the painful swelling completely vanishes. It buys back the basic, simple freedom to finally wear regular shoes without silently grimacing in pain. Number 8 is the circulation-boosting shot using cayenne pepper powder, warm water, and fresh lemon. Having cold, numb feet is a daily, continuous misery for seniors living with weak, tired, aging hearts. Waking up in a freezing, drafty house makes the deep, aching chill feel absolutely permanent and completely inescapable. Stirring a tiny pinch of hot cayenne pepper and lemon juice into warm water forces the surface blood vessels to open wide. Swallowing this fiery liquid sends a massive rush of warm, healing blood directly to the freezing, distant toes and fingers. It acts as a powerful, cheap internal furnace for vulnerable people who live far away from modern hospital emergency rooms. The lemon protects the stomach lining, while the fierce pepper actively, rapidly expands the totally collapsed aging veins. It restores crucial living warmth to a body that felt like it was slowly turning to absolute stone. Number 7 is the upset stomach broth, made strictly of white rice, clean water, and table salt. When a senior has been violently ill for 3 days, the simple thought of heavy food brings absolute intense terror. Our resilient grandmothers knew that boiling white rice in a massive excess of salted water creates a thick, healing broth. Straining out the solid rice leaves a starchy, milky liquid that completely coats and heavily protects the raw stomach lining. Sipping this salty, bland water replaces crucial lost electrolytes and provides incredibly gentle, highly accessible carbohydrate energy. It is the absolute safest first step back toward eating solid food, and it costs less than 5 total cents. The thick rice starch acts like a soothing liquid blanket, dropping gently over a violently angry, burning ulcer. It allowed totally exhausted, Depression-era workers to finally stand up and return to their desperately needed jobs. Number 6 is the famous golden joint milk, utilizing ground turmeric, warm milk, and black pepper. Chronic, deep joint inflammation makes the simple, elegant act of walking down a wooden hallway feel like pure, brutal torture. Indigenous cultures and wise grandmothers alike knew the massive healing power of a bright yellow turmeric root mixture. Gently heating whole milk with a heavy spoonful of turmeric and a tiny pinch of black pepper creates a miracle drink. The black pepper actively forces the human body to properly absorb the powerful anti-inflammatory curcumin hidden inside the yellow spice. A senior drinking this warm golden milk before bed will wake up with significantly less stiffness and much greater flexible mobility. The warm milk fat physically carries the sharp spices deeply into the painfully swollen, screaming internal body tissues. It replaces handfuls of expensive, dangerous, kidney-destroying pain pills with a single, beautiful, tasty, warm mug. Number 5 is the famous lung-clearing syrup, heavily relying on white onion, granulated sugar, and a glass jar. This rustic remedy looks completely bizarre to modernize, but it works better than almost any expensive pharmacy liquid. Slicing a pungent white onion and heavily layering it with basic granulated sugar in a jar creates a fascinating chemical reaction. Over several hours, the heavy sugar aggressively draws the powerful medicinal liquid completely out of the raw, strong onion. Taking a spoonful of this clear, sweet onion syrup aggressively breaks up the thick, dangerous mucus trapped deep in aging lungs. Housewives penciled this exact life-saving recipe into the worn margins of their trusted daily Depression-era cookbooks. It tastes surprisingly sweet and totally lacks the horrible burning bite of the raw white onion plant. This cheap, magical syrup saved millions of fragile, frail people from violently suffocating in their own deep chest beds. Number 4 is the extreme toothache numbing drop, containing whole cloves, olive oil, and the cotton ball. Dental pain is arguably the most terrifying sharp pain for a vulnerable senior living on a strict fixed income to experience. The horrifying thought of a massive $1,000 dental bill is enough to make a proud, strong person completely break down. Crushing whole cloves into a tiny spoon of olive oil and soaking a cotton ball creates a massive, heavy, natural anesthetic. Biting down gently on this soaked cotton forces the powerful eugenol chemical directly deep into the exposed, screaming nerve. It buys a terrified person crucial time to figure out a real plan without suffering in absolute, pure, blinding agony. Spice racks in the 1950s heavily featured jars of cloves precisely for this exact terrible, awful, dark occasion. It was emergency dental surgery heavily distilled into a tiny, dark brown, oily cotton swab. Number 3 is the deep muscle heating pad crafted from whole flaxseed boiling water and a cotton cloth. Severe lower back pain can instantly trap a fiercely independent senior in their bed for several dark, lonely, miserable days. Modern electric heating pads are expensive and carry a terrifying risk of causing terrible electrical burns while a person sleeps. Boiling whole flax seeds in a small amount of water creates a thick, incredibly hot gel that holds its temperature forever. Pouring this hot, thick gel onto a thick folded cloth and laying it on the back drives heavy heat directly into the spine. The wet, penetrating heat forces the violently spasming back muscles to finally completely surrender and gracefully, deeply relax. The thick natural flaxseed oil stops the skin from burning while perfectly transferring the massive, wonderful, deep, healing heat. A senior could make this alone and find total salvation from the terrible, endless, gripping back spasms. Number 2 is the gentle, soothing cough syrup, making brilliant use of raw carrots, raw honey, and warm water. While harsh onions work well for heavy chest colds, a dry, scratching, persistent tickle requires a much gentler, softer approach. A senior coughing relentlessly into a quiet, empty room simply needs their raw throat to be smoothly, heavily coated. Grating a fresh, sweet carrot and soaking it in warm water with a massive spoonful of raw honey creates a delicate syrup. The rich, natural vitamin A in the carrot heavily supports the immune system, while the thick honey acts as a smooth, protective liquid bandage. This deeply comforting, bright orange syrup tastes absolutely wonderful and feels like a warm, loving hug going down a sore throat. It does not cause awful stomach cramps or terrible dizzy, sleepy spells like the modern chemical pharmacy syrups. It was the absolute finest, purest medicine a desperately poor, loving grandmother could ever possibly beautifully create. Number 1 is the nerve pain relief drink, consisting of fresh garlic, warm milk, and clean water. Sciatica is a brutal, burning nerve pain that aggressively shoots down the leg and completely destroys a person's basic mobility. Ancient grandmothers in rural villages aggressively treated this mysterious burning pain with a pungent, strong, garlic-infused milk.
Boiling crushed garlic cloves in a mixture of water and milk extracts the powerful anti-inflammatory sulfur without burning the stomach. Drinking this strange, warm, milky liquid daily significantly reduces the severe swelling pressing directly against the delicate sciatic nerve. It sounds completely crazy to modern ears, but it gave crippled, suffering seniors their vital, independent walking legs back. The warm milk completely hides the terrible, harsh bite of the garlic, making it surprisingly incredibly easy to daily swallow. This one single 3-ingredient recipe kept countless proud, stubborn grandparents entirely out of terrible, depressing, expensive nursing homes. Third pattern break. Here is my ultimate final challenge to you sitting and watching this specific video right now. Please try just one of these completely forgotten, brilliant historic methods sometime during this long coming week. Put the wet cabbage leaf on your aching, terrible knee, or gently stir the yellow baking soda directly into your warm water. Do it slowly and pay very close, intense attention to how your fragile, aging body actually, naturally, beautifully responds. These 30 forgotten remedies were never just about saving a few extra shiny pennies during a desperately hard financial time. They were fundamentally about staying entirely human and fiercely keeping your strict independence when the modern, rushing world turned its back. Tell me down in the comments which one of these cheap 3-ingredient cures you vividly remember your own beloved grandmother using. I desperately want to know if the warm mustard plaster gets more historic love than the strange onion cough syrup. Because these are not just simple, outdated kitchen tricks. They are absolute, undeniable proof that basic physical healing can still be an act of quiet, massive personal dignity.